welcome everybody to episode number 28 of
Good
Mac
evening.
Yak for June 13th, 2019. Got a pretty good show tonight. We don't have any guests tonight for the first time in about a month or so, I think.
Yeah, it's like the roommates have finally moved out. You get the place to yourself again.
I know. And then we're also missing two of our regulars. Missing Rocky, and we're missing Mike tonight.
Yep.
Rocky, unfortunately, couldn't be here, so we're saying hi to Rocky. Hopefully you're watching, maybe. I don't know.
And Mike's schedule is still upside down, so he'll be back soon as well.
So, well, tonight, though, we got a pretty decent show for you. We picked a few good topics and stuff, and we got our own
pretty
regular...
decent. It's amazing.
It is amazing. In fact, it's better than last week's, okay?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to John's Tech Channel, who just graduated from the looks of it.
Cool.
Congrats, John.
And that's good.
I thought he graduated last week.
Maybe he's just saying it to get congratulations.
He graduated last week.
So anyways, guys, we got a pretty damn good show tonight for you. So we got three different topics, but the second topic tonight is going to take the longest, I think, because and we'll get to that here. But anyways, how you guys been doing tonight?
Dude, I came home. There's a cop on my driveway. Across the street, someone had their trailer stolen. Someone backed into their driveway, hooked it up, and drove off with it. And they know that I got a camera watching this place. So like, did you catch anything? So I spent half an hour scrubbing the footage and finally caught something. Burned it on DVD. Called the cop. He came to pick it up. Then I had to make all those amazing looking overlays you see in the show here. And then with about 60 seconds to spare before we went live, I finally sat down and took a breath. That was my day.
Yep.
I got home. I drove up to Pennsylvania and picked up two broken ADC to DVI adapters for free.
Ooh. It sounds like something else just broke when you picked those up.
No, it's just the wires dragging on the floor. But
okay, now something else just broke.
he said that they're broken. I'm not really sure. I haven't plugged them in and tested them yet. And then I spent a few hours talking with my uncle and then came home. And I just got home in time to set everything up and get here.
Okay. What about you, Steve?
No, I just got home too. Seems like a running trend today. But I've been tinkering around with some things, editing a lot of videos. So I haven't seen the light of day in a while. But some fun stuff coming, I hope.
They got to keep those Patreons happy.
Yes, and I'm purposely not showing one side of my desk. Hopefully, it's cropping correctly. But
taking up the whole frame like this, yeah.
We got
anything in the back.
Nobody could see over here. So.
Nothing in the background. Don't pay no attention to what's behind the curtains.
Exactly.
Myself, I've been home for about an hour, luckily, but I had to stop at the grocery store first to pick up. Thank God for Quick Click or whatever they call it. It's the Fry's, which is Kroger's too.
Quick List.
Quick List, because...
Did you say Quick Lick?
Quick List.
That's what I heard.
I heard that.
Kroger employee.
Just do a quick lick of the CRT. That's all you need.
Yeah, anyways, but thank God for that, because otherwise I'd been stuck shopping through the store. I'd rather let some employee do it and pay the $5 extra and be done with it. It's
a useful service. I never really got to use it, though.
Well, now you can. See, now you don't work there. So, anyways, guys, we got a good show for you tonight. So, first topic up for tonight is, what's your daily driver and what do you use it for? To be honest with you, I have a couple of daily drivers. I actually have a 2017 iMac that I use as a daily driver. I play iRacing on it a lot, so it actually runs Windows more than it runs Mac OS. But I'm actually broadcasting this on it as well. But I also have a 2009 4.1 MacBook or Mac Pro that I just acquired about 2 weeks ago from one of our viewers, as a matter of fact, D-Hack. So I thank you very much for that. I got a killer deal on it. So that's my two main drivers. And I actually have a MacBook Pro that I actually use daily at work. So I bring it to work and I actually use that at work. So I actually have 3 daily drivers, you might want to say. So what about you there, Steve?
I probably have one of the oldest daily drivers. Mine is a mid 2011 27-inch iMac.
Nope, Greg.
Greg's shaking his head. That's good. I'm glad I'm in good company because I hear things newer than 2011, and I'm like, huh? What? What's this fancy business with no super drive built into it? But yeah, so I have a mid 2011 iMac. It was the top of the line processor. I think it's a 3.4 gigahertz i7 when it came out. Has 32 gigs of RAM, has a 1 terabyte SSD in there, and it's honestly it has not been causing me any trouble as far as speed or anything. But now that I'm starting to edit video in 4K, it slows down once in a while, especially because the iMac can't support that new HVEC stuff. So I have
need a new GPU.
Yeah. But it's survived through one dead GPU that Apple replaced. Otherwise, it would have been $600 if it wasn't under the repair program. But yeah, so that's my daily driver. I really don't have a problem with it. I have a pretty sweet little Thunderbolt dock that's plugged into the back of it, which gives it USB 3.0. And so I have a lot of I store my content on a backed up USB 3 drive, and then there's another one that's all backed up via Backblaze and stuff like that. So that's my daily machine. As far as my laptop goes, since I've gotten a Mac at work, which is a mid 2015 Retina MacBook Pro with a 2.2 gigahertz i7, I use that a lot for FaceTime, obviously, because it's the only machine I have that runs Mojave. And I say have because it's not mine, it's my office's. But my newest MacBook Pro is a 2008. So it's all right. It's not as fast as Greg's, of course, because Greg's is all souped up. But I do have
Faster.
yeah, much faster, I'm
I
sure.
just have a better GPU. You have all the other hardcore specs. I don't.
Yeah, and then I'm fixing up a new MacBook Pro. I think it's a 2011 one, so maybe that'll work out. Who knows? But yeah, that's
me. I'm looking at Damon here. He has 5 daily drivers, 4 5.1s, and a Mac Pro 2010.
That reminds me, I just got a Mac Pro 2009. That is.
I'm about to say
there.
you both picked up a 2009 Mac Pro, and you're still horsing around
I think Greg paid less
hardware
for his. I think Greg paid less for his, and his is a dual processor. Mine's only a single. So
Still.
I think we discussed that the i7 and the 2011 iMac in single core performance will best the 2.66 Xeon.
Yeah, but you don't need single core performance. You're doing Final Cut. You want the multi-core.
Yes. Well, I still think that. Well, that's another discussion we could have for another day. Go down a rabbit hole on that one. But, yeah, I haven't really set up that machine yet, but it does work, so I'm happy with that.
And we have Garrett uses a 2015 MacBook Pro. Let's see. John uses a 2015 MacBook Pro. No keyboard issues here yet. Give it time. It will. And a Sandy Bridge U Windows.
I'm noticing we're getting a lot of drop frames right now. So how's the stream looking, guys? Because
looks fine to me, but that's just me.
I'm thinking YouTube because I noticed somebody else's live stream today was also doing the same thing. So I don't know I think it's probably YouTube. So normally I don't have any drop frames, but I mean we're getting a lot today.
Well, I mean, they only have like $50 billion and 500,000 server farms by,
Yeah. So anyways, hopefully
we have Dana
the stream is
with
going.
a Mac Pro as well. Finally, someone sensible and uses their Mac Pro.
Well, if we ever get to me, I'll talk about.
Well, you're next. Go ahead.
No, because you take too long. You got 45 daily drivers.
Well,
I think go up, make a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
My daily drivers, I'm currently FaceTiming on my early 2008 MacBook Pro, that one that I built up with the 2.6 in it. That's for FaceTime because actually seems to do the best out of all my Macs. My mid 2011 iMac I use mostly just for filming. I use the camera so I can see what I'm actually filming.
And a tripod.
No, he doesn't have a tripod.
No, the webcam, and I aim it at my camera so I can actually see in front of me what I'm doing. It's a convoluted thing, but works. And then currently, I've been using the new mid 2007 iMac that I built up in my last video a lot, but it's not really a daily driver. And then I've got my 2009 5.1 Mac Pro, which currently I still haven't upgraded the CPU in, and the GPU is giving me a lot of issues. So other than editing video on it, I don't use it a whole lot. But my G5 Quad is hooked up to the same KVM, and I use that daily, even to watch YouTube on, because it handles it like a boss. So that's oh yeah, and I forgot this is sitting in my lap. My world's fastest lightweight MacBook. I use that when I want to surf on the couch or when I'm traveling, because Colin Mister kind of broke my MacBook Pro.
Ringing endorsement right there.
At least this one worked, although he broke it once and then had to rebuild it. But
it's not broken if you fixed it. So
yeah, it's true.
Good point.
Yeah, those are my dailies.
All right, Jay, what about you, man?
I only really have one daily. 2012 Mac Pro server, 12 core. Hardly any upgrades yet. Just the basic. Little bit of extra RAM, solid state drives, slightly better graphics card, and it gets the job done. And when I'm not in front of this computer, I use my phone when I'm on the road, and that's really it. I do everything on this machine. Best Mac I ever owned, until I get the 2019 Mac Pro. Of course.
That's about, what, 5 years down the road?
I'm thinking when my kid goes to college, I should be able to make a down payment.
On a used one, right?
I really want to get one new. That would be awesome, and it'd be a great video.
Yeah,
wait for
like
the second revision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the concept ones. Then they, that we're going to show later on in the show tonight.
Oh,
and you'll want that one, right?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
He's not
if it
drunk
wasn't
yet.
for the back of it, kinda, yeah.
All right, guys. So we're going to move on to our next topic. That's a lot of good stuff in the chat there too. I noticed a lot of people showing what they have for their daily drivers, which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Neo. Hackintosh doesn't count. Not in this group. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh.
Well, I know I'd say Rocky would beg the differ.
Yeah, well, he ain't here, so.
And I do have
well, I actually do run
there.
Windows, but I run it in boot camp on a Mac, a real Mac. Yeah. And that's only because the one thing I run on there will only run on Windows, but they don't have a Mac version. If they had a Mac version,
it's still blasphemy.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, you're still going straight to hell for that.
Oh, well.
Windows XP on my 2007 iMac. It's got all the drivers for it. It'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, I think so. All right, guys. Now, going with that, our daily drivers, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. What we want to talk about here is we're going to talk about Mac's first iteration with the Mac, the very first one Steve Jobs pulled out of the bag, all the way up to, we're talking about operating systems now, all the way up to Mojave right now. I know Catalina is out, but basically it's a beta, so I'm not really worried about it right now.
Yeah.
But we're going to go from OS operating system number 1 all the way up. Now, Steve's going to talk about these early operating systems. He's pretty much the expert on those. So we're going to throw it over to Steve real quick.
I was hoping to have Mike guide me through some things here. I'm all alone, so
thanks, Mike.
You're going to have to deal with my blabbing on here. But I'm stammering here because I'm actually trying to pull up something.
All right, time's up. Sorry.
But crap. Yeah, let me. Here we go. Yeah, so I don't have all the screenshots ready, which I wish I did, because that's just how I am. But what I will say is that we were talking about this before the stream a little bit, but when the Mac OS first shipped, they didn't call them, Mac OS, of course. That came much later. But, the Macintosh system software that came on the original 128K machine was just labeled System. So it was like System 1, was, let's say, the first version of the Mac OS. And so you had the System version and the Finder version. So it was like System 1.0 and Finder 1.0. And eventually those would like kind of go out of sync. Like you'd have, System Software 0.3, but the Finder, let's say, would be 4.1 or something like that. So I do have a screenshot, which will hopefully load up from messages here. Come on. So professional, I know. But
it's weird that they had System 1 just called System 1. I mean, around that time, they were still all having LSD for lunch. You figured they'd come up with something more creative. But
well, that's maybe how they got to some of the later naming. But let's switch cameras so I can just point this at the screen real crudely. And I hope you're seeing this, because I can't see what you're seeing.
No, you're fine. Yeah,
we're seeing it.
Okay, so that is System 6 actually. So we're skipping a little bit ahead, but the System version 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, 1, 2.
No, 1,
3, and 5.
5.
Yeah. Look very, very similar to System 6. Now they all added changes like the included applications that were on the system, such as the calculator and the notepad and things like that. We're slowly, and this really helped things mature on the Mac OS, because basically the first few systems. Yeah. What happened?
I think we lost Greg.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm still here.
I mean, the other Greg.
Yeah,
I lost
Greg Rutke. Yeah, we lost Greg.
Okay. Well, as I was saying, so the first few versions of the Mac OS were really for the original 128K and 512 Mac. So those are really all that was out. And System version 3 was introduced to the Mac Plus in 86. So very early 86. And these are just incremental updates. They added support for the external hard drive. Multiple folders were able to be created. Stuff we take for granted was like really in the formation around this time. And then there's like bug fixes and things like that all the way up through 1987 with System Software version 4. Version 5 was really the biggest change, I believe. I think version 5 and 6 were like, you start to see the Mac OS mature, and the system software, rather, at this point is what it was called. And you'd have support for multitasking, primitive multitasking, but multitasking, which was pretty exciting. I really personally started using the Mac on System 6, so I don't have too much familiarity with System 5. But
sorry, Steve.
No, please.
Because my iCloud reset and all my Macs just popped up a bunch of random bubbles.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's why
that's
I disconnected, because all my Macs reset from iCloud and re-signed in. That was freaky.
Okay, that's a Rutke Mods problem.
Say, something about that.
Is that a Rutke Mods problem?
So Greg is now multitasking, trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah, Greg and multitasking. Good luck.
It signed out all the Macs that are currently running and then started back up.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah, everything's fine now.
This is a traumatic event, man. We want to take a minute?
Anyway, go on, Steve. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So like I said, I really only started to use the Mac operating system around System 6 because that's what my father's Macintosh 2CX used. So System 6 was like the combination of like all the other systems under one roof. You had basically all the bits and pieces from the previous OS in one actual release. And it lasted pretty long, I think, up until, I think it was like the 88 until, I want to say 91 or 92, where they were still updating it before System 7 replaced it. So, I mean, it was out for a long time, spanning like the Macintosh Portable all the way up, I think, to the first LC was what System 6 covered, which was pretty cool. And they actually supported some breakthrough things like the Super Drive, the 1.4 megabyte floppy disk drive, because everything before that was System was 800K disks or even 400K disks. So, that supported even higher bit Motorola processors. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're trying to like go back to like the original Macs, System 6 from, let's say, the Macintosh Plus onward is what the minimum is actually going to be. The Macintosh Plus was kind of the breaking point for that. I'm sure people have hacked things and modified things to run newer or older things, but System 6 is like the go-to. And it was actually pretty stable. System 7 was a huge overall, though, and it had a lot of little numerous changes, and actually was, I think, the first system with virtual memory support. I don't know if you guys correct me on that, but I think System 7 was the first one to have that built in. You could have other capabilities throughout, which was pretty cool. So, I mean, I don't want to go through all the systems here because I think System 6 and 7 are good to talk about first. Maybe, I don't know if you guys have had experience. I know I have with 6 or 7. So
I've used 7
was my intro to the Mac. That's what I had in
7.
high school.
Okay.
I used one on my dad's Macintosh Plus when I was a little kid.
Yeah. I mean, System 7's a great system. I mean, a lot of us were probably introduced to it.
As corny as it sounds, it just works. I got anything and everything done. No crashing, no weird stuff. It just worked. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like kind of where that moniker was probably born, for better or worse. System 7 was pretty good. I mean, I actually, you talk amongst yourselves for a second while I grab something.
Leaves us hanging. Typical
I used System 7.5.3, I think, was the one I was using on my. I had a Macintosh FDHD that I put it on there.
Yeah, here's my copy of System 7 here.
Now,
fancy.
Upside down.
Oh. That's the way my day's going today. But
yeah, I feel you.
Color.
Yeah, wasn't that the first one that came with color?
I believe System, like one of the late editions of System 6 with certain peripherals did support color, but System 7, I believe, was the first one to really spearhead it. Yeah, that's a good question. This does say, system software for the Apple Macintosh. System 7 brings a new world of power, ease of use, and versatility to every Macintosh personal computer. So that's pretty neat.
But the next OS is my favorite.
Yeah, so System 7, I mean, I count System 7 and System 7.1 in sort of the same boat because one came briefly after the other. And although System 7.1 was basically like a bug fix thing, they did have a lot of things that were interesting, like they moved the fonts out of the system folder so they were easier to manage. And it was the first system to support PowerPC processors. So it just goes to think of how long like System 7 was around from like 91. And then as it evolved further, it developed a lot of cool new features. So, Jay, I'm assuming 7.5 is one of your favorites?
Nope. The next system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
he's going major versions.
Yeah, so I mean, 7.1 is on a lot of the older Macs I use just because it's very quick and efficient. System 7.5 and 7.6 were a little bit more power hungry. They needed more memory and such. 7.5 is sort of like a crapshoot unless you have like the latest version because it could be very buggy. There's a lot of stability issues with their memory manager, especially on PowerPC machines. And I just always had a lot of errors, like unimplemented trap errors and all weird stuff. And that was like a dark time for Apple because, they were trying to come out with their Copeland OS and all that stuff. And yeah, so that's kind of a mess. But System 7.6, I think, is the sweet spot of System 7. There's a lot of nice capabilities they added in there. It was the first OS to be licensed to clone manufacturers, which is pretty neat.
So that's when they called it just...
Yeah, so they switched to actually calling that Mac OS instead of System 7. So I'm sorry, my phone's going off here. So
I
that
thought
was
they
actually
dropped the Mac because it was also on clones.
Well, they instead of saying Macintosh System Software, they said Mac OS. So
okay.
That's what they changed the name to. So instead of it being, Macintosh System Software, well, I guess they didn't want to call clones Macintoshes, but it's kind of weird because it's still Mac OS.
Well, wasn't 8, didn't 8 come out because of the Steve Jobs didn't like the clones?
Yeah, so after 7.6 came out, which had a great amount of features that it will take a whole episode to go into, but when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, one of the first things he looked at was this clone program, and they were basically losing a lot of money. They only got like $50 per machine that was sold from these clone manufacturers, and they were losing money because they would spit out a better machine at a lower price than Apple, and it would cut their sales. So Steve Jobs was like, well, we are licensing System 7 to them, and they were going to come out with System 7.7, but they're like, hey, let's call this system not 7.7, let's call it macOS 8, and that'll force them to renegotiate the licensing with us. And so that's what they did. It was pretty sleazy move by Apple, but hey, I mean, they were probably getting eaten alive at the market, and Apple was not in healthy shape.
I don't know if I'd call it sleazy, but I'd call it a way to get out of
it was sneaky. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, they were well within their legal rights to do so. But, I mean, System 8, it was...
And we can skip all the talk about 8 until we get to 8.6, which is, without a doubt, hands down, best operating system ever.
Greg has a good example there.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, yeah, 8 was pretty good, but 8.1 came out very quickly because there was a lot of bugs in 8. And then 8.5, there was some speed improvement, and they still were replacing 68K code. So there's a lot of 68K code still in System 8, macOS 8 rather. And 8.5 helped that a little bit, but like Jay is saying, until you get to 8.6, I think they did a new microkernel around that time, and just it really helped that machine. It supported the G4 processor at that point. 8.5, I think, supported the G3 on more of a level, because 8.0 I think was the first to support it with the original iMac.
And yeah. Quick question: was it just me, or was there just something magical about clicking that software update button, and it was reaching out over the internet somewhere far, far away, very far away, because I was in Europe at the time, and you just got new software, and I would check that thing every day to see if there was something new coming in. It was awesome.
I remember I did not know about that feature until I was over my aunt's house, and she had an iMac DV model, and she did that software update feature. I'm like, whoa, what is it doing? And she's like, oh, it's downloading updates. I'm like, what? It could do that? I had no idea. that was pretty neat. Maybe my dad turned it off on his G4. I don't know, but
probably turned off the extension or something.
Yeah, I mean, or turned it off or whatever. Because I mean, this is dial-up, so you'd have to stay connected for long periods of time. At least we had to download updates. But I mean, I think 8 marked a significant change, because 8.1 was the last to run on 68K, pre-PowerPC Max, and 8.5 and after was just pure PowerPC. So, Apple just made that transition, and I think 8.6 is one of my favorite operating systems. So you guys will probably have your own favorites.
I agree. It's one of my favorite too.
Yeah.
It was so stable. It didn't have compatibility issues that 9 had with some software.
Yeah, and it was just so fast.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I still use 8.6 on most of my G3 and G4 machines for old games.
Yeah.
You had that input sprocket that was incompatible and all that stuff.
Graphics card compatibility.
3, maybe 4 systems that's actually officially compatible with 8.6, or can at least be hacked to run 8.6, like my clone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like honestly, the first versions of 9 were pretty buggy in my opinion, at least on the machines I had them on.
Oh
So
yeah.
my dad actually had his machine. He had a 450 megahertz AGP Sawtooth G4 tower. So it was the AGP model, not the first revision. But he actually had 8.6 on there. And when 9 came out, he installed it on a second hard drive, and he was glad he did because it was running so problematic with, the CD burning software and the SCSI card and all this stuff that he was just using 8.6 for the longest time until, they finally got their act together.
Well, I was new in the whole. I mean, I didn't own my own Mac until 1998.
Oh,
It was
wow.
a
Okay.
G3 blue and white. And a family friend actually taught me about partitioning your hard drive. And I had a whopping bigger than I can ever fill up, I thought at the time, 6 gigabyte hard drive. And I
Oh,
partitioned it.
Nice.
And when I had one for the OS and one for files. And when OS 9 came out, I put OS 9 on the second partition, and when I had a bug or an app wouldn't run or something, I could just switch back. It's partitions is something I've been doing pretty much since day one, since I started using a computer. I can't
That,
imagine using a Mac without multiple partitions with drives and all that.
that reminds me of a good memory lane thing here that will make Jay go blah. My first personal PC had like a
Come on.
big hard drive in it, and I kept filling it up with games and completely maxing it out. So at night,
Dude, I had an old 8088,
yeah,
okay, that I started with 10 megabyte hard drive,
oh yeah.
MFM hard drive that was like, it was huge and it only held 10 megabytes.
But I remember in Christmas of 2000, I got a new Dell desktop, 80
Dude,
gigabyte
you got a
hard drive.
Dell?
Woo.
Dude, I got a Dell. But it was an 80 gigabyte hard drive, and my
let me
dad
guess, it
said,
was in a black Dell Dimension case.
no, it was just
Ah.
a good old, white Inspiron tower or whatever.
Oh, okay, one of those.
The
Okay.
One of
Dell.
those beige, ugly,
Pentium
PC.
3s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the one that looked like the UMax Super Mac.
Yep, I
Basically.
have one probably kicking around here somewhere.
Yeah, but it had an 80 gigabyte hard drive, and my dad said, and I quote, "You'll never be able to fill this up."
And you took that as a challenge.
Oh yeah, I filled it up.
Okay, Damon's
Actually,
saying Dell, don't swear.
yeah, I agree. The 6 gigabytes lasted me a long time, and I was photoshopping and doing all that stuff. It wasn't until Napster and LimeWire and stuff that 6 gigs meant nothing, and it went downhill from there. But that's another story.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. Back in the day, 6 gigabytes was like a ton of space.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's because stuff, programmers didn't like put all this fluff into their programs and stuff like that. So you could take a floppy disk and have like 7 or 8 games on a floppy disk, 1.44 megabytes, and you could play those games on there and save your game files all on the same floppy.
Yeah, let's not forget the early Macintosh operating systems
Ran on a
would fit
400K.
exactly would fit on a 400K floppy, and even the later versions. This is System 6.0. This is across 4 floppy disks, and this includes every printer driver that you needed for the Mac, and 2 disks of utilities, hard drive formatting tools. This is everything you needed on 4 disks, and these are 800K disks. So, I mean, things were pretty efficient back then, and
About
anything
3.
larger.
What is that? About 3 megabytes, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
I remember
1.4,
when I got
800,
that
times
computer
4, yeah.
because my dad got it for me because I graduated, and I actually was spoiled enough to throw a little bit of a fit that said, "But they offer it with a 9 gigabyte too." And my dad was like, "I ought to," So I got the 6, and it lasted me a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah. What model was that again? I missed the first part.
Blue
I'm
and white
sorry.
G3.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, at least you can upgrade the hard drive easily. So.
Yep. Which I didn't have money to do until
See,
2012.
Jay was Jay was spoiled early, with
Yes.
Apple products. So
Yes, I was.
Oh yeah, my first G3 was my first experience with the G3 was the Key Lime iBook that I have. So
I came
the
from
first one I
Atari though.
owned. So
I can I
okay,
can
yeah.
honestly say not Windows any day of my life.
well,
Ever.
you got to remember though, back in the day, like I said, my 8088 didn't run Windows; it ran DOS.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to run Microsoft DOS. You could run, at the time, they had DR DOS, which is Digital Research DOS, which was
Ah,
actually a better DOS than MS DOS, to be
hey
honest with you.
Greg.
Because what?
Sorry to interrupt. You know why the stream was sucking?
Why?
Ken was watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
I can.
I can.
there. That's why. Yep, it's working fine now. So it must be because he just got on. It says excellent connection now. Before it was like it was below the bit rate, but now it's saying it's fine.
I just got here, he said.
Dr.
But
DOS.
skipping over the awesomeness that was macOS 9, because I love that too. I was geeking out. Oh, multiple users sitting there alone in my bedroom. What do I care? But the Kool-Aid was pretty strong at the time. But then macOS 10.
Which
I mean, I think that was.
Well, we're still we still haven't gotten to
we
OS.
haven't got to 9 yet. We got to go
Let's
through
skip
9.
over.
So
Come on.
we were dancing
What
around.
are you going to say about 9?
Well,
that,
you got to remember that's still actually being kind of supported by a group out there. We got to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Because remember, Apple basically said all those operating systems 9 on back, basically they gave out the stuff for free now so everybody can actually mess with it. It's all open now.
Yeah.
Anything 10 and up now is a different story. But OS 9 and below, they said do whatever you want with it because we consider that obsolete anyways.
Now, the version of 9 that I remember having the most trouble with was like 9.0, 9.02, 9.03, 9.04. 9.1, I think, really made things a bit more stable. And a lot of people don't remember, but 9.2 and 9.22, like those were released for Mac OS 10
they were
mode compatibility.
mode.
Yeah. A lot of people have a classic Mac and they'll say, "Oh, I'm running 9.1." They're like, "Oh, you need to put 9.2 on that." It's like, really? Look at the release notes for 9.2. You're not gaining too much unless you're using something very specific that needs that. But 9 was very similar to 8. The original versions were a little buggy, a little unstable. I even remember reading about a beta for 8.7 because those were the early development releases of 9, which I think would have tarnished the system 8.6, branding, I guess, if it was released as that. But 9 is probably one of the systems I spent most time on, if you don't count System 7, because when I got my machine, 9 was running on it. I played Unreal Tournament, the first version on System 9, macOS 9 rather. A lot of fond memories on macOS 9.
Hey, Ken was saying he just worked a Crazy Ken episode with Final Cut Pro 2.
Nice.
System requirements 9.1 to 9.2, not OS X.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I had no clue stuff like Final Cut existed back in those days. I did iMovie though, and no, there was no iDVD at the time, but iMovie was awesome.
Yeah, iMovie was great. That was one of the first digital editing, or the only. I would say
lose connection.
Are we going to have to kick Damon out here? He says Amiga A4000 ran rings around Mac OS 9. That's blasphemy.
Where's the ban button when you need it? Yeah. But I just remember having a lot of fun memories with 9, and it was really my first digital video system was iMovie on Mac OS 9, or iMovie 2 rather. So a lot of fun.
Well, a lot of.
What about you guys?
Now, if you use, we're going to get to this later, but if you use classic mode in at least 10 up to 10.4, you can run OS 9.2.2 as your classic environment, which works really well, actually.
It does for most tasks, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we got to give credit to the OS 9 Lives guys because they actually are keeping that operating system up to date. they're putting new stuff in it, where your older Macs can actually get into the modern world. Like I think they put Ethernet stuff. I mean, there's all kind of new stuff that they put in there.
Graphics drivers.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And full
supporting
disclosure,
unsupported machines.
we've been trying to get a few guys from macOS 9 Lives. Some of the key people that work on the image you download today. We've been trying to get them on the show for months, but they're either shy or time zone is an issue, and we kind of gave up on that. But if any of them are watching, my deepest gratitude, because the image is awesome. Yeah,
it's OS 9 Lives, Ken. Even though he says lives or lives, because
lives or lives,
when you type it, it's the same word. So. A little bit harder to type.
Okay, can we go to OS 10 now?
All right, yes, we could go to OS 10. All right, Jay's like trying to push us along.
Now remember,
my pictures. The ones
yes, I have your pictures.
Getting them.
Just before we get to that, remember the first versions of OS 10 included Mac OS 9 with it. So you up until I think it was either
not
Jaguar
retail,
or Tiger,
but the restored disc
Jaguar or Panther.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So if you bought, I remember buying Jaguar and it came with 9 on the disc. I think Panther did or did not. I forget where they stopped on that, but I know Jaguar definitely had the 9 disc because that became my 9 installation disc for my other machines for a while.
Yeah, I don't remember. I never bought it. I never bought a Mac at the time, so I never had the original restored disc. So I got all my Macs used.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember my dad getting the 9 upgrade for his G4 Tower. And I remember going into the Apple store, and buying System 10.1 for $129, or maybe it was discounted at that point. I don't think I paid full price because they had some promotion that if you got a RAM upgrade or something, there was something going around where they were giving the update away at a lower price. And I remember installing that on my clamshell iBook, and I had 96 megabytes of RAM. And I installed it, and then I tried to open Classic, and it gave me a warning message. And this is the first time of using a computer I got scared, because it said, you do not have enough RAM to run macOS Classic. You can continue doing so, but it may, hurt performance. I'm like, oh no, am I going to break something? And when I clicked start and it worked, I was like, hey, it works. I didn't know what RAM was back then, so I was just like happy to have something work. But
you're lucky, you know that? You had somewhere. Apple stores to go to back then. They opened up the first Apple store where I'm from, like a week after I moved to America.
They opened up the Apple store they opened up was like in this rich, well-to-do area of New Jersey, and it was like New Jersey's a pretty small state on a map, but it could take a while to get to places. I'm not saying other states aren't bigger; they are, and it's not.
To be honest with you, they're not going to open an Apple store in like the west side of town or whatever. The wrong side of the tracks.
The first one they opened was in a rich area, and it was like a 2.5 hour drive. And my dad, thankfully, was into Apple stuff also, so we used that excuse to drag the whole family along. And it felt like I was in the store for only 5 minutes, but we were probably there for 45 minutes while like the rest of the family was like rolling their eyes. But I don't think I bought anything on that visit. But it's eventually I got OS 10 somehow, I think.
So the first time I saw an Apple store, I flew back and forth a few times in 2006, and they had. Not related, but they had this giant display in the window built out of iSight boxes. And I was like, wow. I couldn't afford one of those iSights, but man, I wanted one.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
All right, so we're going to start with the first iteration of the modern OS, which started with the Power PCs at first, which is OS 10.0, which was, what was it called, Greg?
It was Cheetah.
I think. And I actually have a picture of the screen up right now, so.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dual processors. Look at you, fancy pants.
What?
I ran that on my G4 Cube. With the dual G4 upgrade.
Nice.
So that's what 10.0 looked like, and I don't think it was much different from the next one, which is 10.1.
I mean, you take this for granted, but coming from OS 9, this was like futuristic as hell, man. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
You also have to remember this is also actually a mixture of Next Step. That's the reason why, one of the biggest reasons why they brought Steve Jobs back was because they bought Next
Yeah.
for Next Step.
And not to give
Yeah.
OS 8 or 9 a bad rap here, because they were awesome systems, but the ability to right click on something, or in my case, because I love the puck, control click on something, and you could force quit it, was amazing. You could force quit any app that had it was awesome.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, they started in early '96 when they were looking to buy an operating system, and they ended up buying Next or acquiring Next, and for the next 4 or 5 years, as they were toying around with that, that's how OS 10 came to be.
so that is OS 10.0, and actually, like I said, the history of it is basically it was kind of like Next Step, kind of smushed into it because at the time Apple was, I think the System 9 and Mac OS 9, they were running to the end of their life. They I don't think they could have got any more out of it, to be
Well,
honest with
remember
you.
with system with OS 10, the first betas, the public release beta actually looked a lot different than
Yes.
beta did. It actually had the Apple logo in the center of the bar.
Yeah, in the center. That was so
It didn't
weird.
do anything if you clicked on it. It was just
Nope.
cosmetic.
And
But
the computer client said, "What would the world be like if Apple went with BEOS?"
Very different.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the betas before the public release, like Rhapsody and stuff like that, they still looked like classic, and
Yeah.
they had a lot of Next elements also mixed into it, and a lot of Next icons and stuff. It was a really weird looking opera.
You go back and look at Steve Jobs introducing the Mac OS 10 public beta for the first time, I think in early 2000, and he just it looks like such mundane things, but he looks at like the Aqua interface, which was insane. That was a complete
Yeah.
different departure from the Mac OS. You looked at being able to drag a window and the contents of the window staying in the window. Multitasking, protected RAM, all this stuff that we take for granted today was demoed during those early sessions.
Now, what
And
year
I
did
still have the beta disc. I think it was like $30 you could get your copy of. I still have that. That was the early September of
so? What
2000, I
year
think.
did Mac OS 10.0 come out?
That was March 2001, I think, Greg.
One
Okay.
Let me
thousand,
look up the
So that
wiki here.
was definitely after Windows 95 and
and then
Yeah.
98 and
they,
Windows ME.
they then quickly replaced it with 10.1 because it was so buggy. It didn't have a DVD player and all this other stuff.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
quite
Yeah,
horrible.
and if you look at the picture I'm posting here, it looks kind of actually exactly the same.
Yeah, it literally looks the same. And they
Yeah.
did the duck icon some, and they changed the Apple logo from an indigo blue to more of an aqua color.
Yeah, and like Greg said, like some things were just missing from version 10.0, like DVD playback. You
Yeah.
couldn't play back DVDs, but the application was
And
just
it
not there.
wasn't stable at all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember playing around with the public beta, and 10.0 came out, and I have the box somewhere. It's a little crushed, but I have my 10.1 box, and there's a green logo on it that says now includes version 10.1
Yeah.
or something
I got
like
that
that.
one too. And a little fun fact, when OS 10 came out, I wrote a lot of guides for various websites that I forgot the name of now, is how to make that aqua effect step by step in Photoshop
Oh
and stuff.
yeah, yeah. That was a popular
Dude,
tutorial. Yeah.
that blew up.
Yeah,
It
but
was
10,
awesome.
10.1 was a free upgrade if you had 10.0. It was actually one of the rare instances where you used to buy Apple software or an Apple computer and you get these coupons that were just like this sheet of paper with 3 coupons that would say one,
Yeah.
two, three. It was like the rare instances Apple actually used those coupons because you usually open up the box like, I could save money on something. What? Like it was so vague. And basically that was like, here's like coupons in case we develop a program that needs them. And that
And
was actually used.
actually, it was one of those rare instances where Apple actually sort of admitted that they made a giant mistake by releasing .0.
Yeah, it was
They had to.
very
It was so
slow
new.
and
They put
sluggish. It
everything
was
on
criticized
that.
heavily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was probably because they were trying to get out. They had a deadline to meet, and that's what they had to do. I mean, Steve Jobs was basically he was about deadlines, and you had to get stuff out.
And OS 10.10 was released March 2001, and 10.1 was September 2001. So that's a few months time. So they weren't going to charge you another $129. I think people would have went crazy. But
Yeah.
so that was a free upgrade. But what's interesting is before the next release, before Jaguar, I think in January 2002, OS 10 was the default operating system for all Macs that were shipping. So yeah, OS 9, you could still install it and you could still run it, but very early on after 10.1, they're like, okay, this is stable enough. This is going to be the default OS. But there were still a lot of programs that you had to launch Classic for, or you didn't have a carbonized version of. I remember vividly AOL Instant Messenger, they had a beta version for Mac OS 10, but it had no functionality other than like your buddy list and your IMs. Like you couldn't do direct connect image connections, or you couldn't do like the voice chat or anything. All the file transfer features, all that stuff was just like not in the application on the OS 10 version because it was a beta one. So
Yep.
I think that practice was very common up until around 10.1 or 10.2, where because a lot of developers had to rewrite their applications or substantially make changes to them to make them, take full advantage of the Mac OS. And a lot of them were probably kind of being like, is this really going to work out? Do we want to spend the time on this? Apple doesn't have the best track record sometimes. So,
Sometimes.
I think that was
Sometimes.
that was carefully done, I guess, with the free upgrade to 10.1.
Yeah. All right. So that's our first two iterations of 10 OS 10. That's Cheetah and Puma. So now, if you notice, we're getting into the cat name. So apparently they were in their cat naming.
I think Jaguar was the
convention.
first one to actually promote it as Jaguar, like use the code name in the marketing.
Yeah, and that is the next one I actually have showing up on the screen, and it still doesn't look much different from the first two.
Yeah.
But it was quite amazing.
Yes.
For me, just including that tiny little app called Font Book was huge for me.
I think Font Book was in Tiger, I want to say.
No. 10.3.
Oh, no, we're talking about 10.2.
10.2.
What?
Yeah.
Well, no, we're talking about 10.3. We're talking about 10.3 right now.
No, we skipped over Jaguar.
No, we didn't. We were talking about that.
No, we were just talking about Puma
right now.
10.1.
That's how much alike they were. We don't even keep
No, we're
track.
on 10.2. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're on 10.2.
Oh, man. I'll shut up.
I'm used to like operating system being 1, 2, 3. Okay, we start 0, 1, 2. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, so we're on 10.2.
Yeah, we're on 10.2. I'm
all right. I'll act excited once we get to 10.3 again.
The biggest thing about this operating system, it was the last OS 10 that supported Old World ROM Macs officially. So if you didn't have USB plugs or FireWire plugs, you were out in the cold, basically. Built in.
Yeah. So this system required you to have a G3 or higher, like Greg said. And I think Tiger added the requirement of FireWire ports to sort of block you from upgrading. I think Panther was USB. Yeah, that was it.
Well, I do have a favorite thing about Jaguar as well. Spam filtering in mail was finally there.
Yes.
That was a big one for me because I signed up for anything and everything online, which wasn't much at the time, but you didn't know any better.
Well, that was back in the day only when you had one email address too instead of like a bazillion of them.
No, dude, I was loaded up with Hotmail and what Spy Mail, and I don't even remember all the other ones. But I had a lot of them.
I remember being so excited for Jaguar when it came out because of iChat. That was because, like I mentioned, AIM was still in beta. America Online Instant Messenger was still in beta on Mac OS 10, so you had to use the crummy OS 9 compatibility version of it, which wasn't all that great. So when they introduced iChat, and it was just strictly, messaging functionality. They did not add the audio-visual stuff until later. But it was just pretty cool to have like the messages there with the bubbles and all that. I remember buying the operating system just for that. I was stupid excited
iChat
for
was
like
awesome.
the smallest feature. Yeah,
Although
I mean that was really
had
neat.
all my friends, everybody I knew was an MSN Messenger, so I didn't have a lot of people to talk with on iChat, but it was pretty cool. It was very, especially, and I think I forgot the year MSN Messenger came out with the aqua look. It looked a little better than before, but
probably like 2003 or something like
iChat
that.
was pretty awesome. And what about Sherlock?
Oh yeah, I mean the OS 9 version looks like crap compared to the latest versions of Sherlock. I mean, Sherlock 3 was pretty neat because they did a lot of internet searching. I remember using that to like find eBay auctions and stuff like that.
Dude,
like
I used the translate feature. I was talking with people all over the world. I mean, there was no parental controls back then.
Of
you
course
did anything
not.
like if my kid had the kind of access I had back, oh my god, I would lose it. But I used the translate feature a lot, and it was. I think it went through Vista something. I don't know, but it was pretty accurate enough for me to have conversations with people from all over the world. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember using rendezvous. You know, there was I think a rendezvous, and I think they named it Bonjour later on. There was some patent or legal reason why, but I remember that was pretty neat because I had my iBook and my dad had his G4 tower, and networking was actually very easy. Like they would discover their own selves on the network. Like, you know, there wasn't you know, you didn't have to go to the chooser or anything. Like it was actually much more stable than 10.1 as far as networking goes. And I didn't know this, but I'm reading off the Wikipedia that the first version to have HFS Plus journaling was Jaguar Server 10.2.2. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and Quartz Extreme was also a huge point.
You stole
of
that from me. I was going to bring that up next.
Yeah, please talk about it.
I was pissed because my brother at the time got a G4. I think it was digital audio. I'm not sure anymore. And he had, of course, a much better graphics card than the ATI Rage I had in my blue and white G3. And the operating system was just flying on his Mac. Compared to on my G3, it was so much faster. And I didn't really dive into what made an OS work at the time. I was just happy to have it. But yeah, Quartz Extreme made a big difference.
Now, Greg, do you know what was the biggest feature that we lost on Jaguar?
Which one?
Yeah,
either.
No, because I didn't really start using any OSs until Leopard and Tiger.
He was still using PC.
See, I haven't even got to where I started at yet. So
I remember being very vocal about this because the Happy Mac was killed.
Oh yeah,
Jaguar no longer had the little smiling Happy Mac when
Jaguar
you booted up. It was just the Apple
first
logo.
one, the Apple logo.
And I remember being very upset.
But couldn't you get some of that stuff back with Res Edit and stuff like that?
Yeah, you could. There were plenty of modifications to add the Happy Mac back on boot up, but I think I'm just scrolling down Wikipedia to see if it's confirming this.
You're supposed to know all this stuff from the top of your head.
No, but I get Jaguar and Panther mixed up because they were both really slick operating systems for the time. Yes, this one introduced cups, you know, the Unix printing system.
Oh and man! I remember, and if you came from a background dealing with Apple Talk, that was so amazing, so amazing.
And you know, early SMB support and stuff like that. So it wasn't perfect, but I remember connecting to an old laser printer that was a strictly PC only printer, and me and my friend got it to work on Jaguar, and we were like, yes, like we got it to work.
All right, so our next operating system, 10.3 Panther. So now you can act excited again, Jay.
Nah, we lost a moment.
Oh, you lost it.
But what was it? Fontbook. Fontbook was huge for me, as well as, even though I didn't really use it, it just made me feel better, I guess. Encryption. You could encrypt files in 10.3, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm talking about geeky, how geeky I am. I actually went to the Apple store. Now, I already bought Panther online, and it shipped to my house, and I opened it up. But they had release parties for Panther at the Apple stores. And so I still have them somewhere, like dog tags with the Panther logo on it. Jay probably is going to look at his
Yes.
copy now.
Oh, yeah.
I've
And
seen.
look, they still have the plastic on them.
Oh, fancy.
Ooh.
And what does it say on there, Jay?
This says macOS 10 Panther version 10.3 worldwide release.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's 2 tags. One that has the text on it, glare, no glare, and one with just the X on it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got I think I there was something else that I got from there. I think it was just like a flyer or something. But yeah, I remember being
Did I just show this on camera and
Oh,
nobody
yeah,
saw
I'm
it because
sorry.
of the damn screenshot?
No, I
Yes.
Come
saw it.
on.
Hold on.
Oh,
Want to show it
I'm
again?
Well,
looking at
you
the wrong
saw
thing.
it.
Yeah, we saw it. Sorry.
You
Go ahead and
suck.
show it again.
Again, the moment is gone. Here they are. Little dog tags that you got with the launch of 10.3.
Ooh.
Fancy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I remember waiting in line, and I got that, and I think I still have there was the flyer that the Apple Store was handing out. I did take a bunch of photos with my crummy 2003 digital camera at the time, and they were on my homepage.mac.com photo gallery. So there's hanging around somewhere. I'll try and find them before the stream's over to share them. But yeah, I was excited about that release. What
Yeah,
were
I
some of
have
your
to
features,
show
guys?
these pictures
Wearing
anyways
them
because
now.
Greg Rutke spent like hours upon hours trying to get these for us.
I
So,
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
It was a pain to get them all too, but I got them all. I
Thank
played.
you for your service, sir.
At least you got us some screenshots.
Yeah, well, I tried and failed miserably. It's
all right.
easier when you're doing it on one machine. You have to scramble between machines.
So we're going to start talking. The next one is basically where the Intel and PowerPC
Oh,
both
whoa!
kind of
There's a
merge.
lot
Are we
more to
still
talk
talking
about
about
with
Panther? We're
Panther.
still talking about Panther?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Well, and system to support Macs that didn't have FireWire ports in them. What else is there?
See, I thought we were
Start
done.
crying. Hold up. We're still
Dot
couple
Mac
little facts. Come on.
was integrated into the OS more. So if you were an iTools or later Dot Mac user, you had some cool options there. Fast user switching, that was really cool. You guys, I remember using that a lot because we shared a computer. Expose, that's where you're hiding, your windows, put the cursor in the corner to expand the desktop, or press one of the keyboard F keys, and show what applications were running. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
iChat AV was probably my favorite feature because it added voice conferencing and video conferencing to iChat. So think of it as the early predecessor to FaceTime, but of course, only on a Mac and only
Didn't
if
we
you had
talk
AOL
about
Instant
that
Messenger. Well,
before Group
iChat,
FaceTime came out?
yeah. So iChat was introduced in Jaguar, but the AV functionality was introduced with Panther. It was actually very interesting. If your Mac was too old, or you couldn't for some reason buy Panther, they sold you a version of iChat AV for $30. Because
Wow.
for Jaguar, there was a preview of iChat AV. Apple released a public beta for it, but it expired. And when it expired, you could either buy Panther to get the better experience, or you could buy iChat AV for $30. So I just remember being like, should I buy iChat AV? Should I buy Panther?
Nah, they had it on LimeWire.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, I'm sure they did.
And
But
by
I
the way,
mean,
Ken just brought this up, the cube transition, and that brings me to something we also take for granted: the dock, and just stuff fading down to the dock, and you could hold the shift key and blow the minds of everybody that had a PC.
slow motion.
Super slick.
Quartz
Yep, that
Extreme,
was awesome.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah, well, not on my G3. It was like ooh ooh ah ooh ooh, and it was in the dock, but it was still awesome.
The other thing that I remember about Panther was Safari, because Internet Explorer was no longer being updated. So Apple came out with Safari to use that as their own web browser. I think Internet Explorer was still available, but on Tiger or later, it wasn't. Either you couldn't run it or it was too old that nobody wanted to use it. But since Microsoft is discontinuing that, Apple was pushing their new browser.
It wasn't included with Tiger, but you
That's right. Yeah,
probably run it. It just there was no.
Yeah,
point.
I never tried. I never had the reason to.
I think I tried it. I'm pretty sure it runs. It's just that there's no point, of course, to run it. So
yeah.
Did any of you guys actually use iChat AV with up to three people? Well, 3 people total, right, including yourself.
I did it a few
Never
times.
used it.
I was a shy teenager, so I didn't want to show my face. Although I did have an iSight camera, so I was very excited to try it out. But I didn't have too many family members that had a Mac, had Panther, had a video camera. So I had one.
But you had more hair back then too, didn't you?
I had much more hair back then. I was.
Yeah, my hair kind of shifted.
I had more
too,
weight,
from
but
up
more
here
hair.
to down
So.
here.
Yeah, mine migrated too. So
it's funny because I'm the oldest one here, and I still have all my hair.
Yeah, you say
it's
that.
okay. We won't tell anyone you're wearing a toupee. It's okay.
Yeah, I wish it was, but it's.
Now, I think I was still on dial-up at the time, and it was just impossible. I had a few friends with Macs, and we tried it, and we had to go back to a program called iVisit, which we were doing video conferencing way before Apple thought it up. And we just had to fall back on that. But there was a plugin called Eyeglasses because the eyesight was so dark. There was a very popular plugin called Eyeglasses, which worked for USB webcams too. And it had the background, like you could step out the frame. You would do it. You would be on a roller coaster in an aquarium and stuff.
Yeah, before Apple did that stuff. Yeah.
If you had anything less than a G4, that would just kill your Mac instantly.
Hey, maybe we should do a show on that then one of these days. All of us get on that. Well, actually, it probably doesn't work anymore
if you have a server, Jay, you can run an instance of iChat AV server, I believe.
Really,
let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know if unfortunately, if it uses the old AOL Instant Messenger protocols, they're no longer supported. But I think if you run it locally, you don't have to use those protocols. So we'll have to figure that out. That might be fun to mess with.
Yeah.
Because I remember
if we can tie that into a VPN, we should be able to trick it.
I like where this is going.
Yep. Me too.
So guys, keep watching. We might have a future episode.
I know my wife is watching this in the living room. She's like, okay, I'm not going to see my husband for a month. That's fantastic. Thank you, Mac Yak.
Built-in zip support. I wanted to just make that known for Panther.
Was that 10.4?
Zip file.
Or 10.3
You could
We're still on 10.3.
decompress zip files. That's all
I never used it because you know how long it would take my Mac to zip something?
Oh, yeah.
No. I just didn't do it. I was using stuff at.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least they brought back the file labels in Panther. The color green, yellow, red, blue. That they missed in OS 9. That they brought back into Panther. I mean, Panther wasn't, I think, as flashy as Jaguar, but it added a lot of features to the core of the operating system that I think made it better.
Yeah, Michael says he had to repent a lot from LimeWire, so.
You used LimeWire? Shame on you, Michael. Shame on you.
Oh, I used it a lot back in the day. That
kind of saying action menu.
The action menu. I think that was Tiger, or I don't know. I can't remember honestly.
Well, since
might have been Panther.
Since we're talking about it, well, let's.
Oh no, it was Panther. Yeah, that's a little gearbox button. Yeah,
I'd say let's just move on to Tiger.
Yeah, we still got a lot more. We got a lot of.
We're an hour in. We're still at 10.4.
Yeah, I'll shut up. I'll just.
All right. So our next one is basically an operating system that actually started out with 2 different versions, an Intel version and a PowerPC version, which is OS 10.4 Tiger.
Yep.
And there is a screenshot. It still had the same kind of Aqua interface.
It's beautiful.
This is actually the last one.
The Chrome Apple.
Yeah. This is actually the last one that actually had an Aqua interface type because the next one started a new, different features.
Now with Tiger, there's a lot of things interesting about Tiger. Like, for instance, the Intel and PowerPC separate ones. The retail version was PowerPC only.
Yep.
And to get the Intel version, you had to have restore disks, and you had to, of course, have an Intel Mac that supported it. But it was the longest running OS 10. It ran from '05 to late '07 when Leopard came out.
Yeah,
They
Yep.
yeah,
ended the release date of Leopard so many times they just kept updating
yeah.
4, so it went up to update 11 on it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the latest versions for the longest time.
Yeah,
Because I remember being on user forums back then. They're like, "Well, it's 10.4.9. There's only one more release to go," and people are like, "No, they could still do double digits."
Well, I
And
thought the
you know
same
what?
thing.
As
I thought the
impatient
same
as
thing
we
when they did
were,
when they got to 10.9. I was like, okay, they're going to go to 11 now, finally, right? No.
yep.
and
And I recall that I was impatient too. I wanted a new operating system for no other reason than just having it. But having it run for this long, having 11 major updates, turned out to be the best thing that ever could have happened. It is
Yeah,
hands down by far the most
out of it.
stable and loved macOS 10 ever.
But on a reverse note, the Intel version's basically useless when it comes to a lot of things because they weren't writing much Intel code. They were just writing all PowerPC code.
did you use 10.4 on Intel Mac, Greg? A
Yeah,
lot.
I've got it. No, I've
Uh,
never. I didn't use it
okay.
until I got this iMac.
Well, then I have a different story for you.
Uh-oh.
I bought my first modern Mac that I purchased after getting my first job was a 2006 Intel Core Duo 20-inch iMac, not a Core 2 Duo. The first version was the Core
Core
Duo,
Duo.
and it came with 10.4.4 on the restore DVDs and on the hard drive. Yep, that beautiful little guy right there.
Yeah.
And that thing lasted me all the way up to 2011 when I got my recent iMac. But this thing, I mean, yeah, it's only a Core Duo, and the Core 2 Duos came out so shortly after. I was so angry. But 10.4.4 was not a bad OS on it. I actually did not upgrade to Leopard for the longest time. And like you said, there were so many releases for it. I used to play games on that. I ran Photoshop, VMware, all this stuff I used to run on 10.4, and I really never had much of a problem. It was a pretty stable
It ran
operating
well.
system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
most,
it did take up a little less resources than Leopard, if I recall correctly.
but remember, most things that were written for it were written in PowerPC code. They didn't
Well,
write
it was a
code.
universal binary, so you had fat applications that had both PowerPC code and Intel code, and a
Universal
lot of them were shoehorned in.
Which is
Yeah.
why this also 10.4 ushered in a very popular third-party app, which has changed names many times over the years. There's many different companies do it. I think the first one was called X Slimmer, and
Oh,
on a
really?
PowerPC, it allowed you to erase, basically take out all the Intel code you didn't need, and it would make apps faster. It would save you a ton of space on your hard drive, and on Intel, it would strip the PowerPC code from all your apps and stuff, having the same effect there. That was a really cool utility.
Well, that's awesome because if you look at the install size of, let's say, Tiger versus Snow Leopard, it's like gigabytes less.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember running Tiger on my Mac a lot, and I think one of the biggest things that I liked about it was like the front row interface. That was pretty neat. You got, you could watch TV using the little remote. Watch movies and music
things
rather.
we didn't cover. PowerPC Tiger was the very last one to support Classic.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. So
we're still on it,
that's
so we can
that's
still
why
talk
I
about it.
didn't switch to Leopard, because I still use Classic for some old games or some old products, because
What you
Photoshop was they did not have a lot of the features in some of their early beta releases of the CS version. So actually, I was still using Photoshop 7 on Mac OS 9 compatibility mode,
And
just to get some work
10.4
done.
or Tiger was the first Mac OS 10 where I officially made the switch away from OS 9, which was still a daily driver OS for me up until 10.4. 10.3 was awesome, but still had a lot of bugs and it wasn't to my liking. Not a lot of software for it that I wanted, not even on LimeWire.
Yeah.
And I just had to wait it out. But 10.4, that all changed.
Yeah. Now
My
I'm using 10.4 on two different machines I have right now. I have a PowerBook G4 and an iMac G4
Nice.
that I both have it on there. it runs nice. I like it. It runs nice. They do still support it with 10.4 Fox. Still supports it, so you can actually browse the web. I mean, albeit it's a lot slower trying to browse the web on it than the more modern systems, but it still works.
Yeah, I use 10.4 so often. I mean, Spotlight was a breakthrough because it could search inside of documents, like the text inside of a document.
It was a breakthrough, but it was buggy.
It was buggy.
Oh.
It was buggy, but it was pretty cool. I mean, the indexing wasn't the best. It took forever.
Yeah.
iChat AV they updated. Dashboard, I loved that. I mean, now it's dead with Catalina, but Dashboard I thought was really neat.
I see who else out there uses Dashboard besides Steve, because I know I don't.
Oh my god, it was so cool when Steve Jobs showed the demo on a G5, and you take the Dashboard widget and you place it on the water.
Dude, it's like Memojis on iOS now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but look, I'm a shark, and then you never use it again.
I had a currency converter. I had a world clock. I had like a countdown calendar widget. There was just the calculator. I just used it. It was fun little things, But one of my favorite things introduced was Automator. I still use it to this day. I'm probably the only guy who does use it. But you could it's sort of like AppleScript, but with drag and drop things. You could, scale images like in batches. You could rename files, do a bunch of stuff. .Mac syncing. Oh my god, I use that so much. Because I had iDisk, and so I would sync my contacts and all that stuff. And, I mean, what did I was in freaking high school. What did I have contacts that I had to sync for?
Mom, dad, friends.
Yeah, exactly. And QuickTime 7, I think they had some, I think that was the first H.264 support. Yeah. But that's what I wanted to say.
The cool thing about 10.4, especially today, is that guess what? If you install 10.4 from the install disks that are out there, Apple still supports the updating. You can actually still update from the Apple servers, and it takes like about 20 times for you to get all the updates.
Well, the Java updates.
The Java
ones.
Like
6 or 8 of them.
Yeah. But it still works. I mean, that's an old operating system. Probably you're looking at 13 years or so, and it's still being updated. You can still get the
14
updates.
years ago.
Yeah.
The last official update came out in 2009.
Not too long ago. Only 10 years ago.
Only 10 years.
I mean,
that's young.
You still got that going for it. I mean, although pretty soon Apple might take those servers down. You never know.
Well, they'll still host it on their website. Like when they killed Panther off in, I think, 2013 with the updates, you can still download it from their website. So.
And what about the slimmed down version of Tiger that shipped on the first Apple TV?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, see, Ken should be in here talking about that because he has an Apple TV.
I know. Ken be slacking. I don't even think he's here anymore.
He was. I don't know. He said he was probably going to crash. He said he was going to be here for a little bit. And
here's my Apple TV.
There he is.
Custom painted.
There he is.
Oh God, that's hideous.
No, that's not an Apple TV. We're talking about the actual TV. Macintosh.
No.
Apple TV.
No. We're talking about the Apple TV.
We're talking about this one.
Did that one actually come with 10?
The silver and gray one.
It was a modified version of Tiger that actually ran on that.
Ah, okay.
And it used...
Once you jailbroke it, you could actually use some of the Tiger UI elements and stuff. And you could use the Tiger Firefox and a whole lot of other stuff. All on
It's like... The F.
Hey, it worked, Ken. Except for the hard drive, it kind of died. But it worked.
What type of a processor was on there? Was it an Intel one?
Yeah, it's an Intel Pentium M.
Yeah.
So you're running Tiger, which you said was useless on an Intel.
Well, Intel Tiger, in my opinion.
Well, that really spawned, like, when the Intel version of OS X on Tiger came out, and people started tinkering around with things, that the Apple TV sort of helped spawn all of this Hackintosh stuff, because you had an Intel version of OS X, and people just went crazy trying to install it on their standard PC.
Now
we hack it to run Leopard and stuff too.
We gotta move on to the next one, and we skip Leopard because it's just why mention Leopard? It's a horrible opera. No, it's horrible, dude. Come on.
It was
Come
the
on.
first and final modern day operating system on a Power PC. You can't
And it
skip
sucked.
it.
It sucked in every
You know what I
conceivable
remember
way.
about Leopard? Time machine, photo booth. That's about it.
Yeah.
My machine is so useful for my Power PCs because I can back
Oh,
up the whole
and
thing.
boot camp and back to my Mac. I remember
And
back to my Mac. That was a mobile me thing.
my time capsule is blinking orange. It's not good.
So,
Oh, and you just
Oh,
fixed
boy.
it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to our next one, which was 10.5, which is still a
Oh,
Power
come on.
PC. Not
But
Yeah,
it's
the
still a
the
power.
last version.
It's still a
it was
Power
the
PC, but it
first.
also had an Intel version. So this was
It was
also a dual.
no. Those Tiger was separate, but Leopard was combined. It was a universal binary.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the
But
retail release.
Tiger
Yeah.
would run on an Intel as well,
There
but it
were
was
three
separate.
universal
Yeah.
library OS 10s. OS 10 Tiger server, OS 10 Tiger, OS 10 Leopard server, and OS 10 Leopard.
Yeah.
And was
And
Leopard the first one to come on a DVD, or did some version of 10.4 come
Tiger
on
was the first one to come on a DVD, and if you did not have a DVD drive, you could mail away for a 6 CD-ROM version.
I thought it was 4 because it was only 4.
Oh, before then. So.
Yeah.
A lot of CDs. There you go.
A
Yeah.
ton of CDs.
But anyways, this Leopard was the first one to get away from the Aqua theme and go to the space, I guess themes, and also the 3D dock is where it first came in. I think Ken had mentioned that. So the 3D dock came out. Plus, it was starting to look a lot more modern.
And
Yeah,
Leopard
it was
a lot
this
of
was more of like the streamlined under the hood changes release.
Yeah.
and it had a lot of newer application support. It had iTunes 10.6.3, which I think is still the best iTunes ever made.
And it had the first thing, or the first version of something I disabled on day one and have been disabling ever since, the transparent menu bar. Hideous. Hideous. I couldn't
Yeah.
I
stand it.
like the transparent menu bar.
Of course you do.
But it only worked on Quartz Extreme graphics cards.
Yes. What a luxury.
Does the modern macOS still have the transparent thing?
I'm just looking at the settings
Yeah.
now, and I do not see the ability to
Oh, maybe
disable
they
that.
finally got
Now,
I'm sure there's a hack to do it.
10.5 was also the very last operating system that would run on Power PC
Yep.
as well, which was kind of ironic because
And it was also the first one that required a G4 or higher. G3s were built off with Tiger.
Yeah. And I had my brother's
I
G4 by
actually
then.
I actually ran this on my G3 iMac G3
No.
Leopard. I just it installed it. I installed it.
There's no
Yes.
Tiger, buddy.
code whatsoever in it. It requires Altivec.
Well, I had it installed. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
I think Greg's smoking something that we're not
I
aware
must
of
be.
here.
I don't know.
What was he smoking?
I remember it crawling on my 867 iMac G4. So
The WWDC 06 version did actually support G3s. And you could hack the official version, I think, to get it on a G3, but it's not really possible, honestly. It would run like...
Now, what's interesting about this version of OS 10, I remember the announcement, it was delayed because they were developing the iPhone. So they did not have enough people to focus on the Mac OS and the iPhone development at the same time. So it was delayed until October 2007. It was supposed to originally be released in the spring, so just a few months later.
So they were actually pulling their resources all on the iPhone to get it up and running.
And I remember that. I remember people being pissed, but I'm like, hey, it's going to make the OS better. Let it go.
Moving on to the second best macOS 10 version ever made.
Snow Leopard?
Oh, yeah.
This actually was my very first foray into Macs. I started out on 10.6. Yes.
10.6.
My first Mac was a MacBook Air, and it came with Snow Leopard on it. It came with a little reinstall thumb drive. It was a little white thumb drive that you had to install it. In fact, this is actually, I think, is where they started getting away from the CD format and going to a USB drive format. So this is where
I think this is the last version on disc. Is that correct?
yes, I think this was on disc, but it was also on USB.
Yeah,
because I had a look.
Sells it on disc.
Yeah.
But this was the very first OS that required Intel processors, and it was the very last Intel OS to support Rosetta, so you couldn't run PowerPC applications past this. Plus, it was an optional install for Rosetta, so you had to do that while you were installing it.
And QuickTime 7 was an optional install too.
Yeah.
And it also started a trend that app was done only a few times since. It kept the same name, just added to it because it was a major rewrite of the previous operating system.
Yes.
In the case of 10.6, that really showed because it is
either that or they were just running out of cats.
The smoothest OS I ever ran at the time or to date, really. I mean, there's a few that came close, but when it came to stability and compatibility and all that, 10.6.8 was perfect.
Well, from what I understand, 10.6 was basically the base code was Leopard. It was more or less Leopard, but they'd stripped all the PowerPC code out of it and rewrote the Intel code so it was more stable.
Yeah.
And lighter stuff.
The biggest thing to me, it was lighter on my wallet because Snow Leopard was the first release for $29 instead of $129. So I remember being like, "Oh, that's that's playing around money. I'm just going to buy a new operating system for my Mac, and I spend $130."
Well, I didn't have to buy it for mine because it came with my Mac.
But I snuck out on my wedding day to go buy a copy in the store.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Your wife is probably like boiling in the oven.
Wait till she starts coming through the door there. Jay, you're a little bit farther away. You're a little far away from your mic. You're starting to sound like you're echoey. Yeah.
No, it doesn't sound
I have to
like
take
that
my
to me.
headphones off because my battery is low. So.
But I mean, later in this release was the Mac App Store first version. I think it was like 10.6.6 or something like that.
0.4 or 6.
Let me see. Wiki says 10.6.6. So,
wasn't that also where they came out? Was that the one, the OS that came out with Mobile Me, or was that the one after this?
That was before this. Was Mobile Me introduction?
Yeah, Leopard was Mobile Me.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't.
I remember installing. I remember installing Tiger using X Post Facto on my G3 Mini Tower, and Tiger must have phoned home during the installation because the first screen that popped up was, "Hey, download Mobile Me," and I'm like, "Wait, how does this know what Mobile Me is?" It must have downloaded like the What's New or whatever, from the website because it obviously had that not built into the operating system.
You didn't know about Little Snitch, huh?
No, yeah. I mean, the big changes to this was QuickTime X, which was very primitive at the time. It was the replacement for QuickTime 7, but thankfully it was still on the DVD. You could still install it if you did the customize option. I always use QuickTime 7 Pro because there's a lot of functionality in there that a lot of people don't use, like masking and stuff that makes things stupid easy to do some powerful stuff. But QuickTime X was very neutered in this version. It did get better, but...
Speaking of Mobile Me, I just found out about this earlier today. The Apple Store still sells Mobile Me packs.
Why?
A family pack.
Why?
Seriously, look it up. It's $119.
What's the price?
$119.
Yeah, they're not going to sell any of those anytime soon.
I'm sure if you buy that, nothing's gonna
Okay,
ship to you.
all right. We're that's early for what were they smoking? So,
but I actually liked Mobile Me. That was my first Apple account when I got my iPhone. I got a Mobile Me account.
Same here. I got a Mobile Me account, but
me too.
It didn't work that well though. It was like
I liked Mobile Me until
I liked it. I never had a problem with it.
I was in there since iTools, 20 megabyte homepage.mac.com, yo.
I never used it,
and all the way through .Mac. Yeah, .Mac was $100 a month as they raised the price. And then Mobile Me, oh my goodness, Steve Jobs probably almost killed somebody over that.
Well, I
I
had a
remember,
.me account, so
yeah,
Yeah, I have a me account too.
Yep.
I remember they just botched a lot of the features and that they promised for that release, and that's when they renamed it iCloud because it was just too far gone.
Well, I didn't
They
know. I didn't
basically
know
just
how bad
did
Mobile Me
that.
was because I used it, and occasionally there was an issue, and it was a pretty straightforward fix. Then I started working in Apple, and I spent entire days troubleshooting it. And that's when I started hating Mobile Me.
Yeah, to
Found out
answer
how
Ken's
buggy it was.
question, the reason why people hated it so much is .Mac was very, very stable because it didn't have a lot of features. With Mobile Me, they tried to shove in cloud management with photos and albums and stuff like that, replacing a lot of the functionality that they were dropping from the homepage.mac.com stuff.
They
And
also tried to integrate mobile a lot too.
yeah, and it was just too buggy. They never got their webmail working correctly. Things would just disappear. The iDisk wouldn't sync. It would delete your files. It was terrible. And I think that from what I remember, there was a very hard to be in meeting at Apple where Steve Jobs basically ripped the development team of Mobile Me and saying it was an embarrassment to Apple
I
because
could see Steve
you were
Jobs doing that.
paying you were paying $100 a year for this thing and it was basically garbage. I remember chatting with Apple support on multiple occasions because Tiger or Leopard or whatever I was on would just erase my iDisk for no reason. Thankfully, I had a backup, but it would
No,
delete contacts. It would just go nuts. It was not stable. Things were just
I,
never working right.
And we had
I
some
kind of
utilities on
want.
the back end of that when we were troubleshooting it, we could see exactly because Apple had an incredible amount of servers handling Mobile Me, and it was 99% of all the times it was communication between those servers
Hmm.
that messed up, and you got duplicates, and you couldn't get rid of the
Oh, I
duplicates
had the
and all
duplicate.
that stuff.
Get rid of
It
them.
was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, that probably saved me because before I had a backup of my Mobile Me iDisk, I think this actually goes back to .Mac. Yeah, because it was Tiger. Tiger introduced iDisk syncing, and the idea was that you could have your copy of your iDisk locally on your system, and then so if your internet was slow, you could access your files or whatever. Turn that
Yeah.
on, and it wiped the thing. So they were able to restore it somehow. But I digress.
I kind of want to buy the family pack just to see if
No.
they actually send it to me and then return it complaining that it doesn't work.
Yeah. Then you open it, and they're going to say no refunds.
Yeah. All right, guys. Now we're going to move on to where we start getting into the big cats. This is Lion. And I know a lot of people will hate this one for some reason.
Ugh.
Yep,
I didn't have a problem
I'm
with
not.
it, but
I have
My
nothing
one-word
positive to
answer:
say about it.
stability.
Yeah, it was so unstable and slow. Lion is so painfully slow, even on fast computers.
It was a hog.
It
Yeah.
was terrible. It never should have happened.
well,
Yeah, that felt rushed. It felt like they were spending too much time on iOS and they just dropped the
Well,
ball on
wasn't
it.
Lion the first one with that trying to make the address book look like a real ledger and all that crap?
Um, I think Leopard was the first one to start that, but yeah, they did that further in Snow Leopard and Lion.
Yeah.
But it was also, I think, the only operating system that also had both iCloud and Mobile Me built into it. Because it was during the transition time.
I thought that was Leopard, a Snow Leopard, but I forget. Whatever. But yeah, there were some weird transitional periods.
but this was also the very last operating system Apple actually made you pay for, too.
Yes, probably because of the backlash of this one.
Probably, yeah. But
Yeah,
it was
this
only
was still
still, I think it was only like
$29.
$29 or whatever. But still, this is where they transitioned from uh, making people pay for the operating systems to actually making it free and
Yeah.
making the hardware more expensive.
Yeah, and Rosetta was killed in this too. So only Snow Leopard was the only version to support PowerPC applications via that emulation layer.
Yep.
Lion just didn't support it anymore. I mean, there's a lot of little fine-tuned things here and there, but I really didn't like Lion. I always had problems with it, and Mountain Lion wasn't too much better, but it was
Yeah.
better.
Now, it also came out in this version. I think FaceTime was the first time it actually reared its head or was it Mountain Lion? I can't remember.
Yeah, FaceTime was Lion. Yeah,
Was Lion. Okay, but you had to download it separately because it was actually a separate app. It wasn't actually built into the operating system at the time.
$29.99, just like iChat AV.
Yeah, you had to buy it.
And it was in the App Store exclusively. That's where you could buy it from.
In fact, I can still download it right now because I bought it back then.
Yeah.
And multi-touch gestures, I remember that. Mission control. I'm just scrolling through the features. I mean, it laid a lot of groundwork, but it was overall a bit messy for me.
Yep. Mountain Lion was 19. I'm trying to remember. Well, actually, I know the reason why I didn't pay for Mountain Lion. It's because I was a beta tester and they didn't charge their beta testers.
Yeah. Mountain Lion was $20. That's right.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Everything
that's the reason why I didn't have to pay for it. I actually got it for free. So, hey.
Yeah, I think Mavericks was free.
So anyway, since we're talking about that, let's go ahead and move on to Mountain Lion, which was the successor, 10.8.
I don't remember anything notable about 10.8 apart from the fact that it was more stable.
Yeah, that's
I remember
pretty
it
much
removed
it.
Mobile Me and replaced it by iCloud. That's what I remember.
Yeah, Lion introduced iCloud, and then Mountain Lion made it better and actually made it work right.
Xgrid support was removed, according to this.
But we can also say that this was actually the very last operating system of the cats as well.
Yes. Yep. Last kitty cat.
Last kitty cat. They ran out of cats because I don't think you can get any bigger than a mountain. Well, actually, I think a lion is better than a mountain lion, to be honest with you. But, hey, it's semantics.
Yeah.
And we lost Jay.
Oh, he'll come back.
I'll be right back.
All right. Oh, he's in voice. Okay.
I think the biggest... I'm sorry,
also, go on. Yeah, Mountain Lion was also the first one that dropped support for a lot of Macs. Oh, it reminds me, Snow Leopard dropped support for 32-bit CPUs.
Yes, it did, because Lion would not run on my Core Duo.
Yeah, but then when Mountain Lion came out, it dropped support for certain Macs with certain GPUs, like the GMAs and the 7300s found in Mac Pros and X1900s.
Yeah, in fact, I had to get a hacked version of Mountain Lion to run actually on one of my white MacBooks.
But the neat thing was with Mountain Lion is it accepted a lot of text from Lion. So you can add Mountain Lion to run with full graphics acceleration on all of those. And to actually run faster and better on unsupported Macs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lion was a huge dog.
Yeah, I think I know that there were some notable features, but some of them were like they wouldn't really establish anything until later on. Game Center was introduced, and that was more popular on the iPhone. I like sort of disappeared recently, but
yeah. But anyways, that's Mountain Lion. So now, let's see. I gotta.
there were some cool changes, but I mean,
it's just
a big under the hood change, I think.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, this is actually where, like I said, I was already a beta tester because Apple actually invited me to be a beta tester for the new systems. And then once we got done testing it, we got to keep it for free. But this was the last. Mountain Lion was actually the very last one that was paid for. That's right. And Tim brought that up.
The one thing I didn't like was they replaced iChat with Messages. And that was sort of the very first version of Messages was extremely buggy.
Oh, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
It didn't really get better until Mavericks.
Yep. All right, so next operating system, 10.9, is where we start the California places, I guess you might want to say.
Locales.
Locales, that's it, yeah. So this is the very first one that came out. I think this was the first one that came out under... what's his name that's running it now? I don't even want to...
Mavericks.
Can't remember. No, the CEO.
This was the last Scudamorphic operating system.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, if you look at the tray down there. That was, I think, the last one that actually had the 3D tray and where you could see the shadows and all the other stuff on there.
Yeah.
This is a lot of people's favorite Intel operating system.
I love it. It was real stable.
Yeah. And it was quick. It was fast. This was actually the first Mac OS I downloaded on the App Store. And the funny thing was, I was running a virtual install of Snow Leopard at the time.
Oh, no.
So the first operating system, Mac OS operating system I ever used was virtual Snow Leopard. And then I started using Mavericks.
Tim Cook, there we go. Brock.
So,
I didn't even want to think of his name right off the top of my head. So that's Tim, or Tim Apple, as he's called himself now, or whatever, on Twitter. Yeah. But Mavericks was good. I liked it. In fact, like you said, I thought that was probably one of the better looking operating systems until they got rid of the skeuomorphic and went with the flat icons.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
it's all grown on me.
Yeah. I liked a lot of things from it. The notification center, it was okay. I mean, they really improved it later on, but the notification center was a pretty neat thing to organize notifications in the operating system. iBooks was this new application. I remember because I actually published an iBooks book, and I did so on my iMac, and I was playing around with it. So that iBooks author app was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And Finder got tabs and tagging for enhanced document tag support and full screen support. So that was pretty neat. I mean, I don't remember these features like being big at the time, but they were like nice subtle improvements, especially the tabbed Finder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got to kind of quickly moving along these because these are more newer ones that everyone should know a little bit more about.
If not, shame on you. Go install them.
Exactly. The next one is 10.10. Now, I thought 10.9 was going to be the last 10, but guess what? No. Let's go 10.10 and make it Yosemite. So
Yosemite, believe it or not, was the last Mac OS operating system that had skeuomorphic loading beach ball.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's flat now.
They didn't change that until El Capitan.
Yeah.
The rest of it was flat, but the loading beach ball was still 3D. I always thought that was stupid, but kind of funny. And Yosemite is actually the first modern day Mac OS I used when I got my first MacBook. It was the new operating system at the time. And even though it was extremely slow, unless you had an SSD, because it was a very bloated operating system.
Yes, it was a little slow.
It was pretty good. It was pretty stable. It just it ran slow.
There's sort of a trend of Lion, Mountain Lion, better. Mavericks, yes. Then Yosemite, El Capitan, yay. It's like riding a wave.
We're basically saying that Yosemite was basically the Windows Vista or the Vista of Mac OSs.
No, it was Lion.
No, definitely.
Was it Lion? Okay. All right.
But I mean, this was pretty cool. I mean, the only thing I didn't like is they replaced photos. I mean, they replaced iPhoto and Aperture with their Photos app, which really hasn't matured until recently. I mean, that thing was paled in comparison.
Was the last one that supported iPhoto.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Yosemite was the last one that supported iPhoto.
Yes, so you could still install it.
Yeah.
But it was the last one to officially support it.
Yeah.
And Neo even made a good comment here. Last good disk utility. I would actually have to agree with that.
I agree.
Oh, because I don't know why they neutered the damn thing. It's so stupid now.
I go back to sometimes I go back to 10.8 sometimes for disk utility because I have it on my MacBook or my Mac Pro or not my Mac Pro, my MacBook White, my 2008 one, and because my Mojave disk utility just doesn't do everything that I need to do.
It's so stupid.
Freezes is terrible.
Yeah.
But the neat thing about is you could actually run Lion's disk utility in El Capitan. I've got video.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. It's a good one.
Yeah, it was the only modern day OS after that could still run the old disk utility with no hacks, You can't. You can run it in Sierra with a lot of hacks. You can run Yosemite's version, but
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you can't do
I
it
actually
nowadays in the newer one.
I actually had to
Unfortunately.
take an external hard drive, plug it into the Mac Mini behind me from my Mac Pro, which was running Sierra, and format it on the Mac Mini because I couldn't partition it the way I wanted to. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, yeah, you could do it with the terminal and this and that, but it was so easy to use disk utility. Like, why screw it up?
yeah.
Yep. All right, next one. This actually is probably one of the best or better operating systems coming up.
Yep.
Of the modern ones is El Capitan.
Well,
So
El Capitan was the last one that supported most of the Intel Macs that were still supported from Mountain Lion and on.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I kind of like it because it does work on some of the older Mac Pros. You can run it on other systems as well that support it or
And it's
that
pretty
will.
lean. It only requires 2 gigs of RAM. Obviously, that's not ideal, but compared to modern versions of the Mac OS, I think this was a real great option.
And it was
Finally, a system worth talking about.
That's why he comes back.
and you had to run on a 32-bit EFI system.
Yes, you could. So that's probably why it still runs really well. And there are some hacks to get it installed on older systems still.
Yeah,
So
Messages was improved on this, which was nice.
I run LCAP on my 2009 17-inch MacBook Pro. It runs super smooth, especially on an SSD. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the Photos was helped a bit in this release. I still didn't use it. The Maps app was brand new, and Notes was kind of new because you can actually sync notes between your iPhone and your Mac now, which I liked a lot because I think iOS 9, notes syncing, you were syncing it to your iCloud, but now you actually had a place on your Mac you could view them on.
yeah.
Yep. And so Sierra time.
Yeah, let's go Sierra. So now we got two different operating systems come up that I guess they couldn't think of a new name for the newer operating
Just
system.
like Leopard.
So yeah, I was thinking
No,
that
no.
same thing.
No,
But,
they could think of a newer name, but just
well, the
like
problem
Gen
was is that
6,
they were
rewrite.
all still in the Yosemite National Park. So it's like they couldn't get out of that
Yeah.
that national park for some reason.
Sierra is what I like to call, I called in the iMac video. It's the bastard child of Apple that they're trying to forget for some odd reason. I don't know why, because I thought it was a very good operating system, especially after the first few updates. It ran quickly. It was very smooth. Sure, High Sierra is basically just a slightly updated version of it. That even runs better. But Sierra was really good, but you can't even find it in the App Store anymore. If you had it downloaded, it's not in your downloads.
Yeah, it's really weird.
The link to it, if you try to download it by searching for it on Google and then doing the App Store update, it will start downloading it, but it then downloads this weird download link that doesn't work or open up. It's like Apple purposely has been trying to kill it off.
That's why I have copies of all my operating systems on a disk, a backup disk.
Smart man.
Yeah.
And that way I have the installers.
Yeah, this is the only OS that you basically can't find the download of anywhere online. So if you don't already have it, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, you gotta be crafty in searching for it.
And
Yeah, I have every OS from 10.4 up.
the funny thing is,
installers.
Apple, the last download that you could get from the App Store was 12.4. Okay,
Yeah.
and it went up to 12.6. App Store always lets you download the most recent without the security updates for some reason, but the most recent version. So, like El Capitan, it was 11.6, or what is it? Yeah, 11.6. With Sierra, when you try to download it, it says downloads Sierra 12.4. They really tried to kill it off, and I have no clue why.
So,
I mean, it introduced Siri, so that was pretty neat.
Neo B made a pretty good comment here. It says the OS that killed many Macs and the rise of Colin.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's.
And the sad thing is, Colin basically stopped supporting Sierra shortly after High Sierra came out. He's still releasing update patches for both High Sierra and Mojave, but he's like, Sierra's just,
Well, now Sierra is not actually supported by Apple anymore at all, but
it's still supported.
No, actually, not with any updates. Not Sierra.
Updates still supported until Catalina comes.
No, because I've seen we're not even testing any. There's not any updates for Sierra right now coming out for beta testing.
Security updates are still coming.
Yeah, but the last one that's actually still being beta tested is the next one we're going to talk about, which is High Sierra.
Really?
Yes, they are still beta testing. I'm still in a beta testing program for High Sierra, so they're still doing updates. They're called High Sierra updates. That's all they call them now.
Yeah, but they still until Catalina comes out, Sierra still got security updates, so it's still supported.
I think it's because that the system requirements for Sierra killed off a lot of the machines that Yosemite could run, and I believe the high Sierra system requirements were very similar to that.
Yeah.
So that's probably why they're still supporting that to a degree.
Yeah.
So Ken goes, oh gosh, just ask me about High Sierra. I think he had a Ken installation sensation video on High Sierra, if I remember right, trying to get that loaded up and running. Now, the thing about High Sierra is also the very last operating system that supports non-metal graphics cards as well.
Especially.
In fact, I'm running High Sierra both on my Mac Pro and my 2009 iMac because they do not have metal graphics cards. Now, my Mac Pro, after this broadcast night, will have a metal capable graphic card. I just got it in the mail, but I will probably be putting Mojave on that one here pretty soon. But I don't have a problem with High Sierra. It works fine on my 2009, and
I'm running High Sierra right here.
Yeah.
I really stuck to Mavericks for the longest time, and what I did was I forced myself to upgrade to Sierra because of Xcode. I had to update one of the little stickers app that I made for iOS, and you can only run Xcode on the latest versions of the Mac OS. So I installed a separate partition, installed Sierra just for that, and it's now, I run High Sierra on my iMac, but, for the longest time, I refused to upgrade.
Michael was asking, which one of these killed NVIDIA support?
Greg would know that.
Mojave, he's talking about web drivers. Mojave, Apple's not allowing web drivers on it, but High Sierra still supported NVIDIA.
Oh, I misspoke. I'm actually still running Sierra on my iMac upstairs. I didn't even upgrade to High Sierra. I mean, from my point of view, if it wasn't broke, I wasn't going to fix it.
Well, High Sierra still it runs just as quickly.
And they're still doing updates to it. It's
after Catalina comes out, it will still be getting updates, unlike Sierra.
Yeah, I think the thing that'll probably force me to update is the messages in the cloud in High Sierra, because I have that on my iPhone, but it's not. I don't have that on the iMac, and so iMessages is always delayed on there. So that'll probably be the one feature I'm going to see an improvement on, because my Mac won't support the HVAC encoding or anything.
The only bad thing about High Sierra is you can't do group FaceTime, but you can do FaceTime.
Yeah.
By one-on-one on High Sierra, but you can't do group FaceTime. So that's the only. Yeah. That's another big difference between High Sierra and Mojave right now. So.
For me, I mean, High Sierra and Sierra, I came so late to them that, I really just upgraded if an app needed it or whatever. But I was on Mavericks for the longest time. So.
Neo asked, did they break RAID? They broke RAID.
On Yosemite.
Briefly in LCAP, I believe.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, LCAP,
I think they broke it in basically every operating system past Yosemite.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, macOS Sierra regains the ability for disk utility to format and manage RAID sets after it was removed in El Capitan.
But it shows you how long they've been trying to kill it off.
Yeah.
And it was all because of the plans for the iMac Pro and hardware just like it to start using 2 blades of SSD in a RAID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, Michael is asking, is Metal something that has to be licensed from Apple?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's a feature utility set, or
they went from OpenGL to Metal, right? It's
Apple's system, I believe, right?
If the GPU has the instruction set that supports Metal, it runs Metal.
Metal is Apple's own thing, so
yeah,
I don't know if it's open source or not.
It's based off a certain
proprietary, I think.
I don't know what the instruction set is.
Yeah. So.
And another thing, Michael, with Mojave, you can still support NVIDIA cards, but they have to be Kepler, because a lot of Macs that support Mojave actually ran Kepler from the factory. It was the very last NVIDIA card that was supported by Apple officially. So.
Yeah. Okay. The last operating system that we're going to talk about tonight, and I kept that one up for too long there, but anyways.
And this all took a little bit longer than expected.
Yeah.
We had fun.
Is Mojave, okay? If we go over, it's no big deal. This is the last operating system that is officially out right now, Mojave. Catalina is in beta right now, so we won't talk about that at all. But Mojave introduced a couple of new things. Dark mode, for one. System-wide dark mode. Also, stacks. I actually use that feature a lot. I like stacks.
I still haven't tried it.
I just started using it, and I like it. I've just started using it at work because I just upgraded to Mojave when we started doing our group FaceTime here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
But it also introduced group FaceTime as well, so you can only group FaceTime in Mojave up. So
that's the reason why FaceTime. Yeah.
Huh?
Well, stacks is you lose sight of how much crap you got on your desktop. Because if you turn stacks off, you end up with 5-6 icons on top of each other because there's just no space.
Yeah, if you have a desktop that you have that much crap on your desktop.
Sometimes.
I mean, I like it because it keeps everything nice and neat. I like to have a neat desktop. Okay, I don't like a lot of crap all over the place. In fact, my
were you in the
older
army
versions,
or something?
Yeah, I was 20 years. So, anyways, but for 10.4 on my PowerBook, I'm actually using, where they stack up everything nice and neat. It's not stacks per se, but it puts all the icons by type, and it keeps them in order and stuff, so it doesn't get all over. So if I put a thumb drive in, it pushes everything down, puts the thumb drive up there. When I take it out, it moves everything back up. So to me, I kind of like that feature. I just like keeping my desktop clean. It's just one of my.
I mean, the biggest thing about Mojave for me is probably the 32-bit app. Warnings that this is the last version of the OS.
Yes, that's another issue, because Catalina is coming out, and basically, if you have 32-bit apps, they're going away.
And you know what? Apple said that they would only warn you once. You know what? I get the same app warning at least
once
5
every
times a
30
week.
days.
Yeah,
that's what they claimed.
I get the Dreamweaver warning every day. Not every day. I get the Wired warning every other day. QuickTime every day. It's just completely out of control.
Yeah,
yes, really I agree with you, because it does it to me too. It says, this app will no longer, you need to update it. It will no longer be supported in the future versions of OS.
This app is not optimized. I don't care. Just let me use it.
And it's turn it off. I installed High Sierra because I think High Sierra was the first one that yells at you about that. I installed that on my aunt's machine, and she's like, "What is this warning? Do I have to worry about it?" I'm like, "No, just ignore it. You're scaring people with these stupid warnings here. I'm not upgrading your system. Actually, your system can't support Mojave, so just leave it alone."
They added that warning in 0.4 of High Sierra, I think.
Yeah,
so it's been around since before Mojave. It's just more annoying and more constant.
Yeah, and this is just actually the last version of macOS that will support 32-bit apps, which we could fill a whole other hour on.
Well, I know we're cramped on time, but which version of macOS 10 dropped the support to use multiple displays as a single display? And don't tell me you can bring it back, because it's not what we used to have.
I don't recall. Is it Mojave? Or is it
No,
High Sierra?
I think it was Lion or Mountain Lion. I think it was Lion, actually, where full screen suddenly you had a whole separate screen full of weird pattern backgrounds. I think it was Lion where they split it off.
I didn't even know that was a feature.
Well, I know because of like the whole Spaces thing, they sort of redesigned how dual screens work. But I forget when that actually occurred.
Yeah, no, I remember it was Lion, and it was, people go crazy now over having a 40-inch curved display. If you had multiple displays, you already had a singular display back then. It was awesome, and when they took it out, I was so mad.
Like Ken mentioned, there are some toggles in Mission Control to adjust it, but it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
You're used to.
Neo says 10.7.
So I was lying.
Yeah.
Lion it just sucks. It's an awful. But
anyways, guys, that's our trip down memory lane. I think this took a lot longer than. Yeah, I'm trying to get us going here, Greg. You're going to go us back.
Just give me a second.
It's never just a second. It never is.
I just need to do some shameless promotion.
Okay, go for it. Hurry up.
If you guys are interested on how I got the Intel OS 10 screenshots and how it performs and stuff on an iMac, I have a video of it. That's my most recent video, and I'm going to put it in the chat right now.
That's a good one.
Check that out. It's a great video. A lot of people have really liked it.
It's actually, I think I have that link to our channel here, MacYak. I think it's on the featured video.
You have a video on it, Greg?
Oh.
I didn't even know you had a channel, dude. I should subscribe.
I said MacYak, our channel.
Hard ass. Okay, now go on, G.
Anyways, all right. So we're actually at the 2-hour mark right now, but we'll go over a little bit of time here because there's a couple other things we need to talk about that are in this episode here. One of the things Jay wanted to bring up is Mac spring cleaning. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
No, that's for next week. I'm making my dinner right now. I can't go
so we want
to
save that. All right, we'll save that to next week. All right,
that's a teaser for next week.
Yeah. So, quick thing, and I'll throw
the one
Steve.
time you actually put the topics in the description beforehand, we don't have time to cover half of it. That's awesome.
Exactly. Happy birthday to the Apple II.
There it is.
And there it is. Yep. Ooh. Apple II.
This is the Apple IIe. So it's. I think this is 1983.
So which version of macOS are we talking on that one?
Well, it's listed. It's listed under Macs. If you go to Apple's website about obsolete computers, it's listed under the Mac section. Yeah. And a little fun fact in there, I guess the Apple I is not obsolete because they don't have it listed anywhere on their obsolete list of computers.
That is true. That is very
Apple
true.
tried to kill it off, literally. They'd have a program where they were trying to get people who had Apple I's to send them their Apple I's in exchange for an Apple II.
If it's really true that it's not on the list of a vintage or obsolete, I need one of you guys to go into an Apple store wearing a pin cam or something. I need you to do this for me, please. That would be so awesome.
Just give me the $1 million to buy an original Apple I, and I'll do that for you. But yeah, so the Apple II is 42 years old, which is pretty freaking crazy to think about. Released in 1977 of this month in June. I have a 2E, which is the one that's here, and this was released in 1983. The 2E was $1,300, so that's around $5,000 in 2018 dollars. So almost the cost of a Mac Pro there. And the Apple II line actually was surprisingly long living. It lasted up until I think 1991 or 92 or something like that, where they were still selling the Apple IIgs. And then the Macintosh LC had an Apple IIe compatibility card. that you would plug in to emulate, not emulate, but basically had Apple II chips on it, so you could run Apple II games and stuff. And that was only discontinued in 1995. So you think from 1997 to 1995 was a heck of a lifespan to support, a whole system of
97
computers.
to 1995. You
Yeah,
go back 2 years? You mean 1977 to
that's
1994?
maybe I missed. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
1977 to 1995.
We don't
18
we don't
years of
like
Apple II support.
we don't like sober Greg because he pays too much attention to stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, 77 to 95, 18 years of Apple II goodness. So happy birthday, Apple II.
Speaking of Apple IIe, that was the second Apple product I ever used. My grade
Okay,
school had a computer lab filled with them
nice.
when I was in kindergarten, and I loved playing games on that. And then after that summer, they upgraded the Pentium 2 IBMs.
Ugh.
Yeah, but it was a
You
great.
call that an upgrade?
Yeah.
Sure, it's color, but the Apple II is better.
That was late '97 to spring '98. So they used those for a long time.
They got their money's worth out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my short little celebration for this little guy here.
And Greg forgot to unmute us because his dog was barking.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Which I got blamed for, by the way. Thanks, Dana.
Yeah. Wasn't Jay, it was me. That's why I muted. And they're still barking because my wife just came home. So, anyways, we're going to skip over the news announcements and we're going to go straight to what were they smoking, because this is some pretty good stuff here today.
One.
This is a good one. I'm posting in the chat here. This is an eBay listing I found that this guy has a Apple Mac G5, dual 2.0 gigahertz power PC, 512 megabytes, 160 gigabyte, 16-time dual layer super drive. He wants $1,500 for this thing. Okay. Now, that wouldn't be so bad. However, guess what? He had two of them, and somebody actually paid full price for it.
Oh.
Well, is there a make an offer option?
Yeah, there is a make an offer, but if you go to the
someone just offered like $100 and he took
no, because if you click on the one sold, it shows you the price.
And it shows you all the offers.
Me.
It shows that he declined 5 times the same person an offer.
Then a different person bought it. Yeah.
But it shows that there was a user that actually paid $1,500 for a G5. So somebody.
So this is a duel. What were they smoking together?
This was just last month, May 8th of last month. This person purchased a $1,500 G5. Jeez. I'm sorry, but somebody got shafted.
Yeah, somebody didn't read G5 in the title and thought, this is a Mac Pro. It's even then, that's not a good price for an early Mac Pro.
No, that's not.
I have a feeling that some of these purchases are probably to keep up the, like, I don't know, maybe the listing has like a fee associated with it, and maybe they have another eBayer buy it and return it or something. I mean, people are stupid, so yeah, maybe some guy just bought it for $1,500, but I have a hard time swallowing that.
I don't know, man, but I'm telling you right now that when I saw that, I was like, this has got to be our what were they smoking? And this guy was on some serious. Well, Dana, not only the guy
putting up his G5 for $800, so that's a steal.
Actually, the guy selling it, I got to sit there and give him credit because he's making $1,500 off of somebody. I think the person that bought it is the one that was smoking something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you know what question I'm going to ask.
Greg, did you buy that?
What was he actually smoking? What do you think it takes to buy a G5 for $1,500?
So I have an answer after Greg goes.
I think he was smoking something that had some dog poop in it. Because I'm sorry, but that
dog poop. Okay.
Yeah.
You know when you clean out your Mac and you take off the heatsink and there's all that crummy thermal paste that Apple put on there with a bunch of dust? That's what he was smoking.
Plausible.
So we got an honorable mention here, and I wanted to bring this one up too because in one of our Facebook groups that I think it was it LEM or Mac Pro? I can't remember which one it was. And here's the link to it if you guys want to go to it. This is actually a version that somebody came out with that said this is what the new Mac Pro should have looked like. Well, if you look really closely at that, the front side looks pretty cool. The top side looks pretty cool. When you get to the back, yeah, go ahead.
I love it all the way to the back.
Yeah,
it's a great design until the back.
Until you
I
see
would
the
like
back.
the new Mac Pro with these handles and these feet.
Yeah, but you get to the back of it, and it looks just exactly like a trash can.
Check out the link in the chat. That's what you have to look at, guys.
Yeah, I just put a link in there. If you go in and look at those pictures, there's a graphic artist that actually designed this, saying that this is what it should have looked like. Granted, the front should have looked like that, but where's the expandability then? Because basically you're just saying, oh, I'm going to make a square trash can.
Yeah, it's a rectangular trash can.
You know what the worst part about that design is? It's not the no PCI slots and all that, because it's a concept. Why the hell would you put a red mini jack port in the back? Red. Everything is black. Everything. And there's a red port in the back.
Yeah, it just kind of sticks out, doesn't it?
Plus, there's no vent holes.
Yeah.
And where does the air flow through?
It blows it all out the USB ports.
Those handles are smooth. And I don't care how perfect you engineer those smooth handles. If the whole machine is resting on those smooth handles, you're scratching those things up like crazy when you're moving that machine.
Oh, yeah. That's why I don't... a lot of people have been talking bad about the new Mac Pro, but to be honest with you, that is probably one of the best designs, except for the front face, of course, the cheese grater thing. But I think it's the best design overall because you pull the Mac case off and you got access to everywhere on the computer.
If Apple doesn't screw us with the T2 chip, the possibilities with this new Mac Pro are virtually endless.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's still a lot of people complaining about, and I hate seeing it, and it irks me every time I see it in one of the groups, the stand. Okay? The problem is that display and that stand were not designed for us.
Again? Why do you have to open those old wounds, man?
But they were not designed. I'm trying to tell people they were not designed for us. They were designed for professionals out there.
Every time I see you comment to someone on Facebook, you're like, more caps, more exclamation points.
Exactly.
Like, he's about to lose it.
It irritates me. I'm sorry, but it's been a week and a half.
Since Jay and I are moderators of most of these groups, when I see something like that, I just delete it. I don't. I can't.
Yeah, you might want to start doing that in low-end Mac because it's starting to get annoying.
It is getting annoying in low-end Mac. I mean, we're talking, and they're talking about a machine that isn't even out yet, and that's supposed to be for low-end Macintoshes.
Well, I have no intention of ever buying that screen. It's the Mac Pro I'm interested in. But someone did mention that some of the professionals, like the intended audience, have already done a few videos on YouTube comparing their current production monitor to the specs of the new Apple one, and they say it's off the hook. So,
what, the new Mac one?
Yeah,
and it's a lot cheaper than what they were demoing it with. In fact, there was, I think, somebody put out.
I should say it's off the stands, but too late.
Off the stands, yeah. So, anyways, but that one I wanted to put in there as a runner-up for the what were they smoking? Because what was this guy smoking, thinking that, I'm going to make a Mac that looks like a trash can, only square. So to be honest with you, I think that was pretty bad. Anyways, guys, we're pretty much way over our time here that we normally like to go. Some of our shameless promotions here, we'll go ahead and let everybody talk about their websites. Steve has one. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on YouTube, of course. So, go to youtube.com/Mac84 and you'll see all my goodness there. If you want to check out my channel and my videos, I should be releasing one soon. I'm working on a bunch of stuff, so things are a bit up in the air. But you can check out my Patreon blog. I did post a few public things there recently, and there's going to be some more stuff going there soon. But there are some goodies there if you do support me, which I greatly appreciate. For only $1, you get access to a lot of stuff that is that is exclusive for the time being. So check that out if you'd like. And of course, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. The handle is Mac84TV. So I've got a lot of new feedback and stuff from some of these, I guess, people who are watching MacYak. So thank you for following me there.
Woohoo! All right, Greg, what about you, man? What do you got on your channels?
Yeah, I'm Greg Rutke of Rutke Mods, blah, 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 blah. I got a channel on YouTube, it's Rutke Mods. I've got a Twitter, which I'm finally sort of starting to use. I'm an admin to multiple groups on Facebook, and I've got a group on Facebook, my page, and all that stuff. If you're interested in a lot of Mac Pro videos, especially on Power PCs or Mac Pros, go check my channel out.
All right, and what about you, Jay?
My name is Jay. I got my mouth full, so it's your turn.
All right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start ending it here. But Jay's links are down in the descriptions. So are all of our links are down there. So if you want to go check us out, go and check us out. I don't have a lot of links myself. I do a lot of streaming on Twitch for iRacing. So if you ever want to watch me go around in circles or sometimes turn left and right, I do that occasionally.
Oh, but hey, he drives around in circles and sometimes he crashes. But if you are on Twitch, check out his stream once in a while because his car just got a really cool paint job.
Yes, it did. It has a very nice paint job. I really like it because now I am sporting the MacYak logo on my vehicles in iRacing. So you guys can check those out. So those are pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
I just pasted all your links in the chat there, so you each owe me $1.
Wow. You didn't have to do that. They're already down in the description.
It's easier.
Oh, so now you owe me $1. Trademark.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're pretty much done tonight. So if you guys like this, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
No,
either one. But we like thumbs up more than we like thumbs down. So
thumbs up if you like Mac OS 10.
Subscribe to us. Hit that little bell icon, even though I know sometimes it doesn't work, but go ahead and hit it anyways. Also, tell your friends about us. Tell your friends to come and check us out. We try to do this every Thursday night. There will be some times when I'm gone or some of the other guys might be gone where we might not broadcast it because we got a lot of family stuff going on. If you notice, we're missing 2 guys tonight. But we appreciate your support. We don't charge a dime for this. We're not planning on ever charging anything for it. We just enjoy doing it. So this is for you guys out there. This is for you.
Yep.
I just ate way too fast just to be on here and say bye.
Yep. So, guys, we're going to catch you guys later. And you guys be sure to support us and all our links in the bottom in the description. So
thanks for hanging out.
Catch you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.
Watching.
Yep.
See ya.